General Hospital spoilers from April 21st to 25th tease that the latest developments in General Hospital are creating a significant earthquake as Jordan faces a major shock after being fired by Laura. This is not just a mere incident but also part of a bigger strategic picture that is gradually unfolding. This event opens the door for Sidwell, a character who is becoming increasingly dangerous and influential in the town of Port Charles. Sidwell wastes no time and quickly attempts to pull Jordan into his fold, a move that demonstrates his ambition and far-reaching vision. Meanwhile, the situation becomes even more complicated as Sasha also starts leaning towards Sidwell through a $250,000 deal. This is not just a financial transaction but a decision that could completely change Sasha's life trajectory. Her relationship with Jason is on the brink of serious fracture. As Jason, with his deep instinct to protect and loyalty, struggles to accept that his closest ally might be involved with someone like Sidwell. The pressure on Jordan and Sasha is mounting from all sides. Jordan finds herself in a highly difficult position, having to balance her professional responsibilities, personal loyalty, and new role in Sidwell's plans. Every decision, every move she makes could lead to unforeseen consequences. Similarly, Sasha is walking a tightrope with her dangerous agreement with Sidwell. On one hand, there's the promise of large sums of money and potential benefits, on the other, the risk of losing her relationship with Jason and her personal safety. These tensions are steadily building and could lead to an inevitable breaking point. Sidwell's network is expanding, with Jordan and Sasha becoming the latest pawns in his power game. The relationships between the characters are more complicated than ever, with new alliances forming and old ones being threatened. Notably, the pairing of Jordan and Sasha within Sidwell's orbit could create a fresh dynamic for the story. These two strong women, each with their own motives and fears, are being pulled into a dangerous game they may not fully understand. Will they realize they are being manipulated by Sidwell and band together to oppose him? Or will they become adversaries in the fight for power and survival? Meanwhile, the reactions of other characters in town are also worth noting. Laura, as the mayor, will certainly not easily let go after firing Jordan. Jason, with his sharp instincts and self-preservation skills, may have already recognized the danger posed by Sidwell and is silently planning a counterattack. Sonny, though facing his own health issues, remains an undeniable force in any conflict in Port Charles. Recent developments are gradually revealing a larger picture of the power struggle taking place in the town. Sidwell, with his ambition and manipulation, is becoming an increasingly dangerous threat. Jordan and Sasha, though unintentionally, are becoming key pieces in his plan. Carly and Drew are also keeping an eye on the situation from afar, realizing that any shift in the power balance in Port Charles could affect their own interests. This tense situation is leading to one of the most notable climaxes in General Hospital in recent times. As Jocelyn continues her plot to take Emma's position, and Trina heats up her relationship with Kai, different storylines are weaving together in intricate ways. Alexis is still keeping secrets about Christina, while Rick is worried about the dangerous actions that may follow. All these pieces are creating a complex picture of relationships, secrets, and schemes playing out simultaneously. With relationships changing, secrets ready to be uncovered, and true motives coming to light, viewers can expect surprising and thrilling twists in the upcoming episodes. The battle between light and dark, truth and lies, love and power is reaching its peak, promising unforgettable moments for longtime fans of the show. As Jordan and Sasha continue to move deeper into Sidwell's territory, the pressure increases, and the risk of an explosion becomes clearer than ever. Drew is truly facing an unprecedented tough situation as all his plans start showing signs of falling apart. His excessive confidence and risky decisions are slowly cornering him, especially after convincing Willow to sign the legal guardianship papers. The situation becomes even more complicated when Carly starts realizing the hidden risks in Drew's actions and decides to seek help from Brennan, a move that could completely change the course of things. Brennan is not just an ally but someone who can view the situation more objectively than Carly. His appearance in the story brings a fresh perspective and could help Carly recognize the mistakes in how Drew is handling everything. Carly and Brennan's cooperation is slowly forming into a new alliance, putting intense pressure on Drew from those he trusts most. Drew is becoming increasingly obsessed with proving he can control the situation, especially after warnings from multiple sides. His stubbornness is not only threatening his personal relationships but could also lead to serious legal consequences. His recent decisions are no longer based on reason but are increasingly driven by emotion and personal ambition. Meanwhile, Brennan's involvement is adding a new layer of pressure on Drew. With his experience and deep understanding of the law, Brennan can see the loopholes in Drew's plan that even Carly hasn't noticed. The combination of Brennan's warnings and Carly's growing concerns is creating a new system of checks and balances on Drew, something he's never had to face before. This pressure is slowly weighing on Drew, causing him to act more recklessly and impulsively. Drew's attempts to defend his decisions to Carly and Brennan are revealing a new side of him, a stubborn, headstrong Drew who is beginning to lose control. The alarming thing is that he doesn't seem to realize he's going too far and may cause irreparable consequences. The relationship between Drew, Carly, and Brennan is becoming the focal point of a power struggle and principles. Drew believes he's doing the right thing, while Carly and Brennan are increasingly concerned about his methods and motives. Brennan's intervention, at Carly's request, could be seen as an act of betrayal in Drew's eyes, potentially fracturing his relationship with Carly. Drew's situation is becoming more dangerous as he continues to ignore warnings and advice from those around him. His obsession with proving he's right is turning into a dangerous blind spot, making it impossible for him to view the situation objectively. This puts Drew in a precarious position, where every decision he makes could lead to total collapse. Carly, though still concerned for Drew, is starting to question his decisions, and her seeking Brennan's help shows she is losing faith in Drew's judgment. Brennan's presence in this equation is not just a new ally for Carly but also a potential adversary for Drew in resolving the current situation. Recent developments are creating a tense and dramatic scene where each character has their own motives and goals. Drew, with his overconfidence, is slowly heading down a dangerous path. Carly, with her concern and care, is trying to protect not just Drew but also those involved. And Brennan, with his objectivity and legal expertise, is becoming a crucial element that could completely change the outcome of this story. Christina is increasingly falling into the dangerous spiral of obsession with Ava. And signs suggest that she might try to carry out another assassination plot. After the car sabotage incident, Christina's mind seems far from calm. Instead, it's sinking deeper into dark and vengeful thoughts. The way she stares at Ava during their chance meetings, her mumblings when she thinks no one can hear, and especially the covert actions she takes while tracking Ava's every move are all alarming signs of a psychological storm about to erupt. Rick has noticed the worrying changes in Christina's behavior and has started to monitor her more closely. With his experience and sharp instincts as a lawyer who has dealt with many complex cases, Rick realizes that what is happening with Christina is not just a momentary hatred but an obsession that is developing into something pathological. Rick's observations of Christina gathering information about Ava's daily schedule, her secret purchases of items that could be used as weapons, and especially the detailed notes in her notebook about her plans have left him deeply concerned. Rick's worries are not unfounded. Christina is becoming increasingly bold and reckless in her actions. She seems to care little for the consequences and is willing to sacrifice everything to satisfy her thirst for revenge. This shift in her behavior not only threatens Ava's life but could also destroy Christina's future. Rick is fully aware that if he doesn't intervene in time, Christina might cross the line and carry out an irreversible action. Meanwhile, Alexis remains unaware of how severe the situation has become. Her decision to cover up Christina's car sabotage and accept Ava's blackmail might have unintentionally enabled her daughter to continue down this dangerous path. Alexis's overprotectiveness, although driven by love, is slowly becoming a factor that makes Christina feel justified in her actions, and even supported. Rick is torn between whether he should inform Alexis of the seriousness of the situation or take matters into his own hands, monitoring and intervening when necessary. He knows that Alexis, as a mother, will always want to protect her daughter, but at the same time, he understands that excessive protection could lead to unforeseen consequences. This dilemma puts Rick in an extremely difficult position, between respecting Alexis's decisions and preventing a potential tragedy. Christina's obsession with Ava is developing in an alarming way. From her initial bursts of rage, she has transitioned into a cold and calculating mindset, signs that she is seriously planning her next move. Christina is learning how to use weapons, researching hard-to-detect poisons, and even studying how to infiltrate Ava's apartment's security system, clear signs that she is preparing for something far more sinister. While Rick tries to figure out how to prevent the impending tragedy, others in town seem oblivious to the silent danger developing. Sonny, with his current health issues, is unable to fully focus on his daughter's situation. Michael and Willow are busy with their own problems. Even Christina's closest friends don't notice the alarming changes in her behavior. The situation becomes even more complicated when Ava, despite having received money from Alexis's blackmail, continues to provoke Christina in their encounters. Ava's sarcastic remarks and dismissive looks only fuel the flames of hatred inside Christina. Ava seems unaware that she is playing with fire and might pay a heavy price for her arrogance. Rick becomes increasingly worried as he sees Christina begin to track Ava's daily schedule in detail, noting the times when Ava is usually alone and the places she frequents with few people around. Rick realizes that Christina isn't merely trying to scare Ava or cause some minor damage, she's aiming for a far worse outcome. The madness in Christina's eyes every time she mentions Ava's name. The way her hands turn white-knuckled when someone compliments Ava, all of these are signs of a psychological storm brewing. The situation is approaching a breaking point that is inevitable. Rick knows that he must act quickly before it's too late. But can he effectively stop Christina without pushing her into a more desperate situation? Will Alexis realize the seriousness of the situation before the tragedy strikes? And will Ava understand the level of danger she is facing before paying with her own life? These questions hang in the air, creating a tense and precarious atmosphere for everyone involved. Meanwhile, Jocelyn is facing a new and more complex challenge in her WSB mission as unexpected developments begin to unfold. She is slowly realizing that securing the research assistant position from Emma is not just a part of her assigned mission but also comes with unforeseen risks and consequences. As Jocelyn starts to employ more sophisticated tactics to attract Professor Dalton's attention, she unknowingly steps into a dangerous maze filled with dark secrets. The relationship between Jocelyn and Emma is becoming more tense and complicated with each passing day. Emma, who was already favored by Professor Dalton, begins to notice Jocelyn's unusual efforts to impress the professor. What started as competition slowly turns into an underground war as Emma begins questioning Jocelyn's true motives. Suspicious glances, sarcastic remarks, and even small acts of sabotage are becoming part of their daily interactions. Meanwhile, Professor Dalton seems to be increasingly focused on Jocelyn in ways that make her uncomfortable. The compliments he initially gave her for her academic abilities have shifted to more personal remarks. The way he looks at Jocelyn when he thinks no one is watching. The accidental touches when explaining something to her. And especially his invitations for private discussions late in the evening, all these signs suggest that Professor Dalton might have less than pure intentions. Jocelyn starts to feel confused and worried. On one hand, she needs to complete her mission, which requires her to get closer to Professor Dalton. On the other hand, her instincts are warning her about the potential dangers of continuing down this path. The appearance of Emma as a rival only complicates the situation further. Especially as Jocelyn begins to suspect that Emma may know more about Professor Dalton than she's letting on. The situation becomes even more tense when Jocelyn starts to discover signs that Professor Dalton might be involved in suspicious activities. Secret phone calls, carefully hidden research documents, and especially unexpected trips at strange times all make Jocelyn suspicious that her mission could be much more complicated and dangerous than she was initially told. Emma, though initially hostile toward Jocelyn, seems to be slowly realizing some of the oddities about Professor Dalton. There are moments when Jocelyn catches Emma observing the professor with a worried and suspicious look, or secretly taking notes after meetings with him. Jocelyn starts to wonder if Emma might also be on some secret mission or if she's simply a student who is beginning to realize the true nature of someone she once admired. A disaster is slowly taking shape as Jocelyn realizes that both she and Emma might be manipulated and exploited by Professor Dalton. The information she gathers suggests that Professor Dalton may be using his position to approach female students and place them in dangerous situations. Jocelyn begins to worry not only for her own safety but also for Emma's and possibly for many other students who have worked with this professor. The relationship between Jocelyn and Emma begins to change subtly. From rivals, they start to realize that they might need to work together to deal with a common danger. Hostile glares are gradually replaced with understanding looks, and at times, they try to warn each other about Dalton's suspicious behavior. However, suspicion and competition still remain, making any cooperation between them fragile and risky. Jocelyn is faced with a difficult decision. Should she continue with the mission as directed? Or should she report her new findings to her superiors? Should she trust Emma and try to collaborate, or keep her distance to protect the mission? And most importantly, is she overestimating the danger posed by Professor Dalton, or is there truly a disaster waiting if she doesn't act quickly? The situation becomes even more complicated when Jocelyn begins to receive mysterious messages warning her about Professor Dalton. These messages have no specific sender, and the content is often vague, but enough to make Jocelyn uneasy. She isn't sure if this is part of her mission, someone trying to help her, or worse, a distraction meant to derail her task. As she gets closer to Professor Dalton, Jocelyn becomes more aware of the signs of a dangerous and unstable man. He seems to have the ability to switch moods abruptly, from extremely charming and friendly to cold and terrifying in an instant. The way he reacts when Jocelyn asks questions about certain aspects of his research, or how he watches her every move in the lab, all make her feel like she's walking a tightrope in a deadly game. A disaster is slowly forming, and Jocelyn knows she doesn't have much time to act. Emma also seems to be sensing this danger, and there are moments when their eyes meet, and Jocelyn can feel the same fear and anxiety reflected in Emma's gaze. Can they overcome their rivalry and differences to face the danger posed by Professor Dalton together? Or will each of them have to find their own way to protect themselves in an increasingly dangerous and unpredictable situation? Jason is facing an unprecedentedly complex situation as he discovers the developing relationship between Danny and Sasha. Initially, he tries to remain calm and believes this is just a normal relationship between his son and the woman he's developing feelings for. However, Jason begins to notice concerning signs in the way Danny and Sasha interact, shared empathetic glances, prolonged private conversations, and especially how Danny seems to turn to Sasha more than him in difficult moments. What truly worries Jason is not just the closeness between Danny and Sasha but the timing of it, right after Sasha signed an agreement with Sidwell. He can't help but wonder if Sasha is inadvertently pulling Danny into Sidwell's dangerous world, or worse, whether she's using her relationship with Danny as a way to get closer to Jason for other purposes. Old obsessions about losing loved ones start resurfacing in Jason's mind. Memories of Sam, of young Michael, and of everyone who had been hurt by their connection with him come flooding back, creating a storm of emotions he had long tried to suppress. Jason begins to closely monitor every interaction between Danny and Sasha, analyzing every word, gesture, and even the silences between them. The shock comes when Jason accidentally finds Danny's journal, where the boy expresses complex feelings about Sasha, not love in the usual sense, but a deep trust that Sasha could be the woman to bring happiness to his father. Jason reads his son's heartfelt musings about how he lost his mother, his fears that his father might always be alone, and his hope that Sasha could fill that void. Danny's sincere and emotional words make Jason feel both touched and anxious, touched by the love his son has for him, and anxious because he's unsure whether Sasha deserves that trust. Meanwhile, the threat from Sidwell becomes more apparent. Jason begins receiving information from his sources that Sidwell is not just a businessman, but is linked to dangerous criminal organizations. The deal Sasha signed could be more than just a regular business transaction. It might be Sidwell's way of getting closer to Jason and perhaps even his family. The thought that Danny could be dragged into this danger keeps Jason awake at night. The madness begins creeping into Jason's mind as he tries to balance protecting Danny, maintaining his relationship with Sasha, and dealing with the threat from Sidwell. He begins to engage in behaviors that even he doesn't recognize, following Sasha without her knowledge, checking Danny's phone while he's asleep, and even secretly investigating Sasha's past in more detail. These actions are completely contrary to Jason's usual straightforward and transparent nature, showing just how serious the situation has become. What's even more worrying is that Jason begins to notice signs that Danny might know more about his father's real work than he thought. Innocent questions like, "What does Dad do when he goes out late at night?" or "Why does Dad always carry a gun?" begin to pop up more frequently. Jason isn't sure whether this is just the natural curiosity of a growing child, or if Danny has overheard something from Sasha, or worse, from people connected to Sidwell. The emotional explosion occurs when Jason catches Danny and Sasha having a serious conversation at the harbor, a place Jason has repeatedly warned Danny not to go alone. From a distance, he can't hear what they're saying, but their body language shows this is not an ordinary conversation. Sasha seems tense, constantly looking around as if afraid someone is watching, while Danny appears unusually serious for his age. When Jason approaches, they both seem startled and quickly change the subject. That moment marks a turning point in how Jason views the situation. He's no longer sure about anything. He's not sure about Sasha's loyalty, about what Danny knows or is hiding, and even about his own ability to assess the situation. This confusion and unease are entirely foreign to someone like Jason, who is usually confident and decisive in every situation. Jason starts making necessary adjustments to deal with this increasingly complicated situation. He enhances security around Danny, changes his daily schedule to spend more time with his son, and even considers sending Danny somewhere safe if things get too dangerous. At the same time, he begins to subtly challenge Sasha, posing questions and situations to gauge her reactions, trying to determine whether she's truly keeping a secret. The relationship between Jason and Sasha begins to grow tense under the pressure of suspicions and concerns. Sasha notices the shift in Jason's attitude but doesn't understand the real reason behind it. She tries to reach out to him, explaining the deal with Sidwell and asserting that it's just a business decision, but Jason can't fully trust her explanations knowing that Sidwell is no ordinary business partner. Meanwhile, Danny begins to sense the tension between his father and Sasha, which makes him feel guilty and worried. He starts to withdraw, speaking less to both Jason and Sasha, and spending more time in his room. Jason notices this change and feels heartbroken knowing that his own actions are causing discomfort for his son. But he doesn't know how to balance protecting Danny with maintaining a normal family environment. The situation grows more tense as Jason begins to receive clearer information about Sidwell's true plans. It seems that Sidwell is not just targeting Jason, but also wants to establish a broader network of influence in Port Charles, with Sasha and Jordan playing key roles in his scheme. Jason faces a difficult decision. Should he confront Sidwell directly and accept the risks, or continue watching and waiting for the right opportunity to act? Meanwhile, the relationship between Danny and Sasha continues to develop in ways Jason didn't anticipate. There are times when he catches them laughing together and they seem completely harmless. But there are also moments when they suddenly fall silent when he enters the room or exchange glances he can't explain. This ambiguity only heightens Jason's anxiety and uncertainty about what to do next. One day, while Jason is secretly following a meeting between Sasha and a stranger, he's completely shocked to realize that the man is one of Sidwell's closest associates. The meeting seems tense, with Sasha repeatedly shaking her head, appearing to refuse something. When the man leaves, Jason notices Sasha wiping away tears and seemingly trying to compose herself before returning to work. That moment makes Jason realize that Sasha might also be caught in this difficult situation against her will. Perhaps she's not part of Sidwell's plan, but rather another victim. This thought causes Jason to begin viewing the situation from a completely different perspective and raises the question of whether he's misjudged Sasha and her relationship with Danny. The situation grows even more complicated when Jason discovers that Danny has been secretly contacting Sam, his mother, and sharing details about the developing relationship between Jason and Sasha. Sam, although far away, has expressed her support and even encouraged Danny to help his father in this new relationship. This somewhat explains why Danny has been so actively pushing for Jason and Sasha's relationship, but it also raises the question of whether there's something else Danny hasn't shared with Jason. Jason is at a crossroads, unsure whom to trust and what to do next. He feels as if he's losing control of the situation. A feeling completely unfamiliar to someone who's always kept everything under control like Jason. The threat from Sidwell remains. Danny's safety is still his top priority. And his feelings for Sasha still exist, though clouded by suspicion and worry. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Jason turns to Carly, his longtime friend who understands him better than anyone else. He shares all his concerns and doubts, from the relationship between Danny and Sasha to Sasha's deal with Sidwell. And even signs that Danny might know more about Jason's dangerous world than he's revealed. Carly listens without judgment and finally offers advice Jason didn't expect. Maybe it's time for Danny to know the truth. He's growing up, and the more you try to hide it, the more he'll find ways to discover it, maybe in much more dangerous ways. Carly's advice makes Jason seriously consider whether it's time to have an honest conversation with Danny about his real work, the dangers their family might face. And why Jason is always on guard and sometimes seems distant. This will be a difficult conversation that could forever change their father-son relationship. But it may be necessary to protect Danny in the future.